Hi friends, my name is Bhavya Mangla. I am IATF qualified auditor doing audit for the automotive sector for the last 19 years. I'm again back with a very interesting topic, and today I'm going to talk about the key difference between scrap and salvage. And by the time this video will end, you'll understand what exactly is the meaning of scrap, what is the meaning of salvage, why both are important for any organization, and what are the key differences between them. When we talk about any family, you will see maybe there's a boy or a girl who may be studying and using some books, maybe mathematics books. So once the year finishes, then that child goes to the next year. Generally, what happens? What happens to that book? Then it goes to the sibling, maybe a boy or a girl, and then that sibling also uses the same book. And after that, what happens? Generally, in India, people don't throw the book; they send it and they sell it to the bookkeeper again. And then the book person sells it to another person who cannot afford a new book as a second-hand book. Now that person also goes through that book. Once that happens and once that student reads that book, after that, again, that book is being sold to a rack picker. Now that rack picker what do? That rack picker will again sell that particular book to a person maybe who is using it in terms of pages, maybe a person who is selling some sweets or vegetables. Now that vegetable owner will torn each paper and then will put some vegetables or something like that and then sell it. And then finally what happens to that page? Then finally it will go for recycling, for making another paper. Something similar happens in the case of scrap and salvage, where the intent is that as a part of process with respect to the disposition of any product, what needs to be done. Let me start with the definition of scrap first. So as per ISO 9000 2015 version, the definition of scrap is action on a non-conforming product or service to preclude its originally intended use. So primarily what we are trying to say, we are trying to say that when we cannot use something for which it is being designed, then we need to throw away that part so that it cannot be used in any way and it should fulfill the customer requirement. Say for example, let's take the example of a fused bulb. Now if a bulb is fused, we cannot repair it, we cannot do any rework, we have to scrap that. Or maybe in the case of semiconductor, either it is good or it is bad. We cannot make any repair or anything on that. Something similar happened with any fungus infected pastry. If some fungus is there, we cannot say that no, we'll remove something and then we can eat it. No, it has to be scrapped. Something similar happens in case of any vehicle, say for example a car, wherein if we know that the car has passed a certain life, say 15 years, or maybe there is a bad accident and now it cannot be used in any way, then we have to scrap that. So these are all some of the examples with respect to scrap. Now, before talking about the salvage, there is another interesting definition in ISO 9000 2015, and that definition is about regrade. So when we talk about regrade, primarily we are talking what? We are talking about alteration of a grade of a non-conforming product or service in order to make it conform to the requirement, differing from the initial requirement. So even though it's not a definition clear with respect to salvage, but when we talk about salvage, primarily the intent is that whatever was the original specification of the customer or maybe the organization specification, we cannot meet that. But still there is a possibility that it can be used. So what we do at that time is called salvage. Let's again take a few examples. Now the first example is with respect to a headlamp. Now assume that there is some fitment issue and we cannot use the headlamp, but still the bulb is good, the wiring harness is good, there are some other components which are there, rubber components are there, which are used, so they all can be salvaged from that headlamp. Another example if we take, it can be with respect to a painted component. Now assume that it is being observed that whatever is the thickness required, say 30 microns or 40 microns, it is not there, it is less or high. So we can segregate. We can identify that which are the painted components which have got either less or very high painted thickness, and then we can salvage that. Then another thing could be that we can always remove the paint and then we can repaint, and that way we can use it one more time. Another example could be with respect to a steel mill. Now, in a steel mill, whenever a new grade is being made, a new heat is being made, and then after the processing in the steel mill shop, we check the different chemical compositions, say carbon, phosphorus, and other things, and we realize that it is not meeting the original intended purpose. Now, generally, that heat is maybe of 10 tons, 20 tons, and 40 tons. Now, we cannot scrap that heat. So, what we can do, we can find out another specification which can be nearing to that. So, we can use that. Or, as I said about the definition of regrade, we can regrade, then we can use it for some different application rather than scrapping a lot. Or something, if I talk with respect to a car, we know that there's an accident in the car and now we cannot use it, but there are many parts in the car which can be used in some other way. Maybe the tires are in very good condition, maybe the steering wheel is in good condition. There can be many other components which can be removed from the car and they can be sold. So that way we can salvage certain things. Talking about some of the key differences between scrap and salvage. So when we talk about scrap, primarily we are talking about something which cannot be used at any cost. Whereas when we talk about salvage, we are talking about something which cannot be used but may not be in the original form. We talk about an example, as we talked earlier, it can be an accidental car, but on the other hand, when we talk about salvage, the example can be the different components of the same car which can be reused. It could be tires, steering, seats, lights, etc. When we talk about scrap, generally the returns are very, very low. On the other hand, when we talk about salvage, we get reasonable returns. At times, it is even more than the complete product that we can get. When we talk about scrap, primarily the intent is that it is not meeting the customer or the organization specification. Whereas when we talk about salvage, yes, it is true that it is not meeting the specification, but still it can be partially used by using some concession or something like maybe a customer approval. And lastly, whenever we are talking about scrap, generally the decision is taken by the top management because there is a lot of loss with respect to the money. On the other hand, when we talk about salvage, this decision can be taken in consultation with a quality head or a production head or maybe with the help of a customer. So if I do a summary, when we talk about scrap, primarily we are talking about something which cannot be used and we have to make sure that it is rendered in such a way so that nobody can use it again. On the other hand, when we talk about salvage, we are talking about something which is not meeting the specification, but still there is a possibility that we can use it in some way and we can make sure that there is not total loss in that. Well, my next video will again talking about the differences, and there I'm going to talk about the key difference between statutory requirement and the regulatory requirement. Regularly, I'm getting a lot of feedback from your side and they're helping me to understand your expectations. So please do continue that. And in case you're liking these kind of videos and blogs, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel and my website, bhavyamangla.com. And in case you want to understand a little bit more about this particular video, you'll find a link below. If you click that, you'll find a blog there. There you find this information in much more detail. Thank you.